Listen closely. The sound you hear right now is the sound of your life ticking away. Most people never notice it. They are too busy drowning in the noise. In the year 2042, the world was split into two distinct realities. There was the lower city, an endless, neon-lit maze of slums where billions of people lived. Down there, silence was a luxury no one could afford. The streets were filled with the blaring horns of hovering transport vehicles, the glaring holograms of advertisements, and the constant, deafening chatter of a society obsessed with cheap entertainment. The people in the lower city worked 12 hours a day, only to spend their meager earnings on digital illusions to forget their miserable reality. They were trapped in a cycle of earning and spending, never moving forward. Then, there was the apex. The apex was a single, colossal tower that pierced the clouds, sitting miles above the smog of the lower city. It was home to the architects of society, the billionaires, the silent elites who pulled the strings of the world. Up there, the greatest symbol of wealth was not gold or data or flying cars. The greatest symbol of wealth was absolute, uninterrupted silence. This story is about a boy named Elian. Elian was born in the deepest, loudest sector of the lower city. Every day of his life had been filled with a brutal, crushing noise. He worked in a scrap processing plant, breathing in the fumes of discarded machines, listening to the grinding of metal against metal. He saw his friends and family slowly lose their minds to the endless distractions of the digital feeds. They stared at screens until their eyes bled, searching for a moment of dopamine, a quick thrill to escape the misery. But Elian was different. He noticed the pattern. He saw that the more people consumed the noise, the poorer they became. He saw that the system was designed to keep them distracted, to keep them weak. One evening, after a brutal 14-hour shift, Elian found something unusual in the scrap pile. It was a smooth, black metallic card. It had no text, no screen, and no glowing lights. It was perfectly cold and completely silent. When Elian touched it, a single line of silver text appeared on the surface. It read, "The true currency of the universe is focus. Find the door of silence." Elian did not know what it meant, but he felt a cold chill run down his spine. The message was a crack in the system, a glitch in the endless noise. For the next 3 months, Elian changed his life. He stopped looking at the glowing screens on the streets. He stopped talking to his coworkers about meaningless rumors. He started practicing what the ancient books called monk mode. He would sit in the darkest, quietest corner of his tiny room, close his eyes, and force his mind to be completely still. At first, it was agonizing. His brain begged for stimulation. It screamed for the bright colors and loud sounds he was addicted to. But Elian fought back. He built an iron wall in his mind. He learned to control his breath. He learned to control his thoughts. He became an island of silence in an ocean of chaos. The black card was not just a piece of metal. It was a compass. As Elian's focus sharpened, the card began to vibrate whenever he walked in a certain direction. It was guiding him. He followed the compass for days, moving through the dangerous, abandoned sectors of the lower city. Finally, he stood before a massive, rusted iron door, hidden behind a waterfall of toxic waste. There were no handles, no keyholes. There was only a small indentation in the shape of the black card. Elian pressed the card into the slot. The heavy doors groaned and slid open. He stepped inside and found himself in a brightly lit, pristine white hallway. Standing at the end of the hallway was a man in a flawless gray suit. The man's eyes were cold and calculating. He looked like an uncanny, almost robotic version of a human being. "Welcome, Elian," the man said. His voice was smooth and perfectly modulated. "You have escaped the noise, but surviving the silence is a different matter. You have entered the Crucible. This is the testing ground for the apex. If you pass, you will rise above the clouds. If you fail, your mind will be wiped, and you will return to the scrap heap, forgetting you ever had a chance." Elian nodded. He did not speak. Words were a waste of energy. "There are 3 trials," the man continued. "The first is the trial of the past. Walk through that door." Elian walked through the first door. The moment he stepped inside, the pristine white walls vanished. He was suddenly standing in his childhood home. The room was dark, dirty, and reeked of cheap alcohol. He saw his father, sitting in a worn-out chair, shouting at a broken holographic television. "You are nothing, Elian," the illusion of his father screamed. "You are just like me. You will die in this dirt. You think you are better than us? You are weak." Suddenly the walls began to close in. The sound of his father's shouting multiplied, echoing 1,000 times until it was a deafening roar. Phantoms of his old friends appeared, laughing at him, pointing their fingers. "Give up," they chanted. "Come back to the screens. Come back to the comfort. It is too hard. You cannot do it." This was a psychological trap. It was designed to trigger his deepest insecurities, to make him doubt his own worth. The fear was a physical weight on his chest, making it hard to breathe. The system wanted him to react. It wanted him to shout back, to argue, to show anger. But Elian remembered the cold, dark corner of his room. He closed his eyes. He slowed his breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. He imagined his focus as a sharp, unbreakable sword. He let the insults wash over him like water over a stone. He did not care about the past. The past was dead. He opened his eyes. He looked at the roaring phantom of his father with absolute, chilling indifference. "You are not real," Elian whispered. Instantly, the room shattered like glass. The noise evaporated. Elian was standing back in the white hallway. The man in the gray suit looked slightly surprised. "Impressive," the man said. "Most men break when confronted with their deepest shame. But you showed no emotion. You are ready for the second door. The trial of the present." Elian stepped through the second door. The environment shifted instantly. He was no longer in the slums. He was standing in a lavish penthouse suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a breathtaking, sunlit ocean. The room was filled with the most beautiful, intoxicating things he had ever seen. There were tables piled high with exquisite food that smelled like heaven. There were glowing digital displays, showing billions of credits transferring into an account with his name on it. Soft, hypnotic music played in the background. A group of stunningly beautiful people walked toward him, holding out glasses of golden liquid. "You made it, Elian," a woman with glowing eyes said, smiling perfectly. "You won. You never have to work again. You can have anything you desire. Just drink this. Just relax. Let go of the struggle." Every cell in Elian's body screamed at him to take the glass. He had been starving his entire life. He had never tasted real food, never felt clean silk against his skin. The temptation was agonizing. It was the ultimate illusion of wealth and arrival. The system was trying to hijack his reward circuits, to flood his brain with artificial dopamine and make him soft. He looked out the window. The ocean was beautiful, but it was too perfect. The waves moved in a predictable, repeating loop. It was a lie, a beautiful, comforting lie designed to put his ambition to sleep. Elian looked at the glass of golden liquid. He reached out his hand. The woman smiled wider, victory in her eyes. But Elian did not take the glass. He smacked it out of her hand. The glass shattered on the marble floor. "Comfort is the enemy of greatness," Elian said, his voice hard as iron. "I do not want your fake rewards." The penthouse flickered and dissolved into black ash. The second trial was over. He had rejected the greatest trap of all, the illusion of having already succeeded. Elian found himself back in the hallway. The man in the gray suit was no longer smiling. His face was deadly serious. "You have an unnatural discipline," the man said. "But discipline is only defense. To conquer the apex, you must prove you can attack. You must prove you have the instincts of an apex predator. The final door is the trial of the wild." Elian stepped through the heavy metal door. The air changed immediately. It was brutally hot and dry. The smell of dust and dried blood filled his lungs. He was standing in the middle of a vast, golden savanna. The sun beat down on his shoulders mercilessly. There was dead silence. Not the peaceful silence of an empty room, but the terrifying, electric silence of nature right before violence erupts. Elian stood perfectly still. His eyes scanned the tall, yellow grass. His heart hammered in his chest, a primal alarm going off in his brain. He was being hunted. 50 yards away, the grass parted. A massive male lion stepped into the clearing. It was huge, scarred, and heavily muscled. This was not a simulation of a human. This was raw, unfiltered biological terror. The lion locked its amber eyes on Elian. It lowered its massive head and let out a low, vibrating growl that Elian felt in the bones of his legs. The rule of the wild is simple. Prey runs. Predators stand their ground. Every instinct inherited from millions of years of human evolution screamed at Elian to turn and run as fast as he could. His legs trembled. The adrenaline in his blood was like battery acid. The lion took a slow, calculated step forward. It was testing him. It was waiting for the flinch, the sign of weakness that would trigger its instinct to chase and kill. Elian remembered his training. He remembered the grueling discipline of his silent nights. He channeled all his fear, all his adrenaline, and compressed it into pure, focused aggression. He did not back away. He did not break eye contact. He widened his stance and stared directly into the soul of the beast. He projected a singular, dominating thought. I am not your prey. If you leap, one of us dies, and it will not be me. The lion stopped. The standoff lasted for what felt like an eternity. The human will against the primal beast. Elian did not blink. He breathed slowly, deeply, entirely in control of his heart rate. He was entirely present, entirely dangerous. Slowly, the lion broke eye contact. It huffed, turned its massive head, and disappeared back into the tall grass. Elian had won the mental war. He had proven his spirit was unbreakable. The savannah melted away into blinding white light. When Elian opened his eyes, he was standing in a massive, glass-walled room. He looked out the window and saw a sight that took his breath away. He was looking down at the clouds. Below the clouds, invisible and silent, was the sprawling nightmare of the lower city. He was at the top of the apex. The man in the gray suit stepped forward. He bowed his head respectfully. You have passed the Crucible, Elian, the man said quietly. You have proven that your mind cannot be broken by fear, seduced by comfort, or intimidated by raw power. You are no longer a slave to the noise. You are now an architect of silence. Elian looked at his reflection in the glass. He was the same boy from the scrapyard, but his eyes were different. They held the calm, terrifying power of someone who had conquered himself. He realized then that the greatest wealth in the world was not money or status. The greatest wealth was the ability to control your own mind when the rest of the world was losing theirs. He had won the silence. And now, he was going to change the world. The story of Elian is not just a tale of the future. It is a reflection of your reality right now. Every day, you are faced with the noise, the endless scrolling, the cheap entertainment, the voices telling you to take the easy path. Every day, you are tested by fear and seduced by comfort. Are you going to let the noise control you? Are you going to be a consumer of distractions, trapped in the lower levels of your own potential? Or will you choose the difficult path? Will you choose the silence, build your discipline, and face the lions in your life without blinking? The choice is yours. The door is waiting. Master your mind, master your English, and you will master your world. Listen to this story again. Notice the words, notice the phrasing, but most importantly, notice the lesson. Keep grinding in silence.